republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Can we have a roll call, please?
Okay, Mr. Corman,
Here?
Mr. Prince,
Here.
Mr. Person, Ms. Switchy,
Here.
Mr. McIrvin,
Here.
Ms. Perez, Mr. Pavoni.
Here.
Roll call, Mr. Mayor, 2 absent.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Prince?
I move we excuse the absent council members.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we excuse the absent council members. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The absent council members are excused. Next on the agenda is a proclamation.
Okay, Ready and Renton Month. Proclamation. Whereas September has been designated by the President of the United States of America as National Preparedness Month and coincides with the City of Renton's Ready and Renton Emergency Preparedness Campaign, and whereas Renton has experienced natural and human-caused disasters in the past, and scientific evidence indicates the city and the region remain vulnerable to disasters in the future, and whereas the city and the region are located in a geologically active area and are particularly at risk for potential damage due to earthquake and other ground movements, and whereas investing in the preparedness of ourselves, our families, our businesses, and our neighborhoods can reduce injuries, fatalities, and economic devastation from disasters of all kinds, and whereas the basic steps of emergency preparedness are the same for everyone, make a plan, build a kit, and help one another, and whereas staying informed is a vital part of responding appropriately to emergencies, and all members of the Renton community are encouraged to locate and bookmark their sources of emergency information in advance at rentonwa.gov, rentonwa.gov, and whereas Ready and Renton creates an important opportunity for every member of the Renton community to prepare their homes, businesses, and neighborhoods for any type of emergency. Now therefore, I, Dennis Law, Mayor of the City of Renton, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2016 to be Ready and Renton Month in the City of Renton, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Renton to be affixed this 15th day of August 2016, signed Dennis Law, Mayor of the City of Renton.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Prince?
I move that we adopt the proclamation as read.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that council adopt the proclamation. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Council adopts the proclamation, and Ms. Deborah Needham is here to receive it, I think. I am very proud to present this to you, and thank you for all your work in emergency services. Do you want to?
Recently, the City of Renton went through the Cascadia Rising 2016 earthquake exercise. Council participated, the mayor participated, and every single department was either involved in taking training in advance of that or actually participating in the exercise. The city is doing everything it can to prepare. We have plans in place, we practice and we drill those plans. Ready and Renton is a time when we ask our community to get ready. Everybody can do something more than what they have already done. And so I'm going to go ahead and fess up. Here's something I hadn't done yet, and I'm going to be working on, and it seems very timely given all the discussions around pets. I'm actually creating, beyond what I had already for a pet emergency preparedness plan, I now have 2 rabbits. They had emergency evacuation caging, they had emergency evacuation hay and other things, but what we did not have was an emergency contact list. If I was unable to get to them, who would come and take care of them? So my daughter and I have partnered. I'm not really a dog or a cat person, but I am going to be her emergency contact for her dog and cat. She's going to be my emergency contact for that, and we're going to create ring down lists of people who are closer to our homes because she lives a little further away. So I too have things that I could always stretch and do to improve and prepare better. So I wanted to encourage every resident that's out there, every business that's out there in Renton, to look at what you can do to prepare better than you already have. There's excellent ideas on the website that was mentioned. MakeItThrough.org has excellent resources. There are also resources on our own website at rentonwa.gov. And if anyone has questions, please feel free to call me at 425-430-7027. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Needham. Okay, next up is the administrative report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Council, several items wanted to just update you and the public on.
As you know, we've been working for a number of months now with Doug Baldwin of the Seahawks and the Renton School District for Cascade Benson Community Center that would serve Cascade and Benson community residents. We've been met again recently and discussed the concept of a Family First Community Center, which would be a multi-purpose facility that provide valuable service for both kids and their families. We'll continue to keep you and the community informed on this. We're excited about the partnership opportunities and more to be said. We're one of 8 Renton businesses named to King County Solid Waste Best Workplaces for Waste Prevention and Recycling. We were cited for 3 initiatives: comprehensive waste reduction and recycling, ability to collect and recycle throughout city facilities, and requiring all surplus items to be transferred between city departments before being discarded. It's the 3rd time we've been recognized, and we appreciate the work of all of our employees in helping us and reduce waste. Our municipal court, as the council knows, has implemented a information system called OCORT, which is a cloud-based record system that's saving Renton taxpayers over $405,000 annually. It's created a near paperless court, making jobs easier and increasing the number of cases heard while using fewer employees. We're the only court in the region that is using this system, and we were recently showcased by Microsoft for our pioneering work. We want to wish Brotherton Cadillac a happy 100th anniversary, and thanks specifically to the owner, Brad Brotherton. He has been a great city partner. He's been instrumental in continuing the Miss Washington pageant, making Renton home for that pageant. He's also allowed the Seattle International Film Festival to come to Renton by donating a large screen at the IKEA Performing Arts Center, and has helped with the Renton Farmers Market and Renton River Days. As you all know, it's important we always have strong corporate partners, and we appreciate Brad's leadership. The Brewmasters Tap Room on Benson Road held their grand opening Tuesday, August 9th, and Viet Hoa Asian Market, which has been a city staple for over 10 years, held their grand opening for their new store location just across the street on Sunset yesterday. We also wanted to just let the public know, some of you are finding out the hard way, we are in the process of changing our access to elevators. Public access are changed from 7:50 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., with the exception of Monday night, when they're supposed to remain open. However, I understand in the process of reprogramming, that didn't work, and I think Julie is down there manually helping people to get up here to the council meeting. But for the rest of the week, folks who need to conduct city business, just know that those elevators won't be open. This is really to help us with some security issues, so we don't have people up in and around employee areas before employees get here. We were notified by Puget Sound Energy this morning about 2 o'clock that a power pole had been knocked out, and so they've been working on 156th Avenue Southeast at Northeast 4th Street most of the day. We actually had to close the street. They reopened it to 1 lane, and I believe since 4 o'clock the street is now reopened. And then there's been some discussion for some members of the public about property that the city recently purchased next to Cascade Park in the Tiffany Park area. Some questions about what's to become of that property. We'll have crews out this week notifying adjacent property owners, and we'll put a sign up on that property that will indicate the purpose for the acquisition. There's been some access issues with that park and security issues for a number of years. We were made aware a while ago, as the council knows, that this property was for sale. We purchased it and intended to see if the property could still be used by the housing authority until such time as we determined the ultimate use of how the design would be included into the park. In looking further, once we purchased the building, it was determined by the housing authority that the building, the cost of repairs to get the building ready for their occupancy would exceed the value of the building. And so the proposal the plan is at least to raise that building beginning next week. We will seed the yard once we get the building down, maintain that, and it'll be fenced so that cars can't drive into the park. We'll We're going to be meeting with the Benson Hill Community Plan Advisory Board this Thursday, and we'll be continuing to discuss with them the overall long-term design for that area, including that piece of property. So we want to let folks know that's what's going on, and there'll be more information posted at the site. In addition to all of these things, Mr. Mayor, I wanted to just remind the public we have a lot of traffic we're continuing, traffic improvement, or excuse me, road improvements and transportation improvements. And so folks who are interested can go to our website at rentonwa.gov/traffic impacts, and they'll get all of the various areas where we're working this week. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Covington. Okay, next on the agenda is audience comment, and I guess before we do audience comment, I just want to remind people that this is not your only opportunity to communicate with the council. So I don't want people to feel like they have to be an auctioneer and get through all the material in 5 minutes. We can definitely receive emails. I also wanted to just point out that the issue of animal control, which there's half a dozen people signed up tonight, was sort of the latest issue that's kind of popped up on social media, Facebook and Nextdoor, and that we're still having issues with the old meets new when it comes to social media. In short, any conversations that any council member ever has with a member of the public regarding a city issue, any written record that's created is subject to Freedom of Information requests, and people from the public that want to see those email artifacts or those electronic artifacts are entitled to that, which makes it really tricky when a council member makes the mistake basically of on Facebook communicating about something, because then basically the council member's Facebook messages and the messages of the member of the public that they're communicating with are all now have to be screened for Freedom of Information content in the event that somebody makes a Freedom of Information request. And so while council members have been briefed on this, it becomes more and more of an issue every day, because social media becomes sort of a preferred method of communication. I think probably every council member here is on social media looking at things, and then we're often, we want very much to jump in and say what we know, but we're cautious because of what I just shared. And so I think the answer for people that really they're on social media and they see this is to send an email to the city council when we receive an email, and you can find our addresses on the website. It's retained on the server. If somebody serves a Freedom of Information request, it's all handled by city staff. It doesn't expose your own Facebook account or anything else to Freedom of Information requests, which mostly is about the burden. You don't want to have to go through things 2 years later looking for that stuff. But that's very much a viable path. I have a feeling that since we just got a presentation, there's probably some of you that I know that I would be anxious to share my opinion, and you might end up overrunning the 5 minutes, and I just ask you to if you start seeing the light turn to yellow and then to red, to please wrap up your comments, but just know that you can email anything that you felt like you forgot to say. I think with that, I'll remind the speakers that please, when you get recognized, come to the podium to speak. State your name and city of residence for the record. And the first one up tonight is Diane Dobson.
Thank you very much. Diane Dobson, Renton, Washington. Thank you to the council for allowing me the opportunity to address you tonight during the public comment portion of the council meeting. President Corman, thank you for your willingness to engage in that transparent public dialogue and eagerness to involve the citizenship in the processes of municipal government and leadership. Council members Corman, Prince, and Perez, thank you for your efforts at explanation of process and your continued availability for community liaisonship. I address you tonight as a council, but speak to you as a panel of my peers. I made the mistake on the 1st of August in coming to the council, and instead of focusing on what I do want, I focused on what I didn't want. And as common sense tells a person, what you focus on is what becomes your reality. I was fortunate that night to have public engagement with Mr. Mayor, which reminded me to focus on the positive, set the example of what I want to achieve, and never settle for mediocrity. What I don't want is for this to get personal. What I do want is to achieve a symbiotic relationship between myself, my neighborhood, my community, and my leadership. One that we're working together in an effort towards synergy, where the whole is greater than the sum of the separate parts, where we recognize the facts we are not experts in everything, and we embrace the strengths of others around us who might be more aware. At the very minimum, give recognition to the factors which bring them there and the passion which may drive them to take the risks in being there. Someone once told me the first simple rule in life is if you don't go after what you want, you'll never have it. Council members, I made the mistake on August 1st is addressing things I don't want. So instead, tonight I take the opportunity to encourage you as our advocates within the city of Renton and focus on what I do want. Being a council member must be a tiresome and often thankless position. We've entrusted our faith in you and your judgment to provide our city leadership in both good and bad times. It's a responsibility that provides you learn a lot about a lot, and I admire that tenacity and time it must take to be involved, especially with the amount of time and dedication that those on the current panel must certainly put in of your own personal time, making meetings, learning about all aspects of city function, keeping a happy face for the sake of facilitating the process. It's a job that I imagine would consume you 24/7, or at least until you went on vacation. And in the sake of Ms. Perez, who recently responded to communication even when she was on vacation.
Right.
So thank you, Ms. Perez, in her absence, for her efforts and dedication to the community.
She's listening tonight, too.
As the job is an all-encompassing job, I take the minute tonight to remind you that as a community, we support you. We support you as our advocates to do your job and to be on all the time. Not just council meetings, not just committee meetings or out in the public, but where we as citizens can't be. Be our advocates in those back rooms or during meetings that we can't attend. Use the tools within your community to reach out to experts in their areas, not just the city personnel being paid to give you the report. Encourage the ones that are passionate about their issues to get involved, trusting that their passion is a sign at the very minimum that they do care. Be excited that they do care, because when the citizens don't care is when we have problems. Use our support as citizens to ask the questions that might ruffle a few feathers, challenge authority, and don't always facilitate the process. But those questions might generate results that are better for the whole. Finally, you have an employee by the name of Raquel Timmons, I believe, and because of a lack of transparency and process, I hammered pretty heavy on her at our neighborhood meeting. I feel it was incredibly unfortunate, as she is very well spoken on behalf of the city, and I feel that her expressions are genuine and not just positional. I feel she was put into a very unfortunate position, as with the other two representatives that came out from the city to our neighborhood association meeting, by sending them out without any preparation or authority to answer the questions that we had. So I look forward to setting up a time with the appropriate city representatives, as we originally asked for, that have the authority to answer the challenging questions posed, for our neighborhood association and interested parties to meet with us to discuss the city center community plan. I trust you as a council and interested committee members will assure this meeting is arranged for without further delay in process, and I invite you to participate to assure that firsthand this process is adhered to. I also look forward to the town hall meeting that the mayor, Chief Milosevic, and the North Renton Neighborhood Association are facilitating with the other interested parties, downtown businesses, neighborhood and South Renton representatives. It leaves me with a positive outlook toward future communications and efforts. I trust the Renton Police Department will continue with efforts of community-based policing, as we're entrusting them to the safety and care of some of our most precious possessions and people. We want to work with them and not against them to make our community as safe, clean, and welcoming as possible. Synergy, it is possible. So thank you on behalf of the community for all you do, the time you put in, and your respect tonight for allowing me, respect for me and the devotion that I have for the city, for your allowance of my full comments
All
tonight.
right. Thank you very much, Ms. Dobson. Appreciate it. Okay, next is Christy Hartman.
everyone. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak again. We spoke briefly last week about the animal control issues, and I'm here again to kind of follow up, and appreciated the presentation that was given by the police department. After last week's information, I took a moment to talk with Mr. Prince and Mr. Pavone about the situation, and it was very clear to me that the main issue at hand was the public disclosure issue, and I promised to send an email to the council, and since I made that promise, I have been working on something, but I've also received two important pieces of information that I'm considering and in composing my letter to the City of Renton Council. The first one is the Regional Animal Shelter of King County's reports and contracts that I received from Gene Mueller. I called him up and I said, well, what does it cost? What is the agreement that you have with all these other cities? And he said, well, I got it all right here, and if you guys wanted to join, we'd love to have you, and here, let me send it to you. He sent it over to me, and it's massive. It's a lot of information to digest. But I really did my best, and after also listening to the number 2 piece of information, which was the written presentation that was available to us prior to tonight's live presentation by the police department, it became clear that there were a couple of highlights of the presentation tonight that didn't really, they weren't the same. The information that was presented tonight by the police department, it varied a lot from the information that I got from King County. The King County shelter costs of the city of Kent, just for the sheltering alone, look like $862,000, not $200 and something thousand. And the other thing that was really apparent to me in looking at those cost evaluations was that we were being compared to the population of the city of Kent. And when I looked up the populations and the calculations that King County was using, because population was a main issue in those calculations, we're not really comparable to Kent by population. They're closer to Bellevue by the numbers, and we're actually closer to Kirkland. We're a little higher than Kirkland. I think Kent was a little higher than Bellevue. But those costs are significant in the way that the King County shelter calculates all of the costs that they then divide up and give out to everyone. If you were to review those reports, I think that you would find that there's a lot of room for different formulas, and they're wide open to different ways of meeting everyone's needs. Some of the northern cities contract out with PAWS for their sheltering, and they pay them separately. There's probably lots of different scenarios that could work for us if we were to consider King County's sheltering services. Something that was worrisome to me is that I really value the services that our local animal control officers provide, and I want them to keep their jobs. And I thought a lot about them in considering what we were going to do moving forward. And I wondered whether or not the King County shelter would have a formula that would allow us to keep our officers working, doing the good job that they do. That being said, I'm horrified by the current conditions of the shop shelters that they keep referring to. Have anyone personally been down there? I think you too would be horrified by the current conditions. And I've seen some photographs as recent as this last weekend that you'll see later that pretty bad. I don't think that that is a reflection of the officers. I think it's a reflection of the tools available to them to do the jobs. But again, I would like to reiterate that I don't think we should be in the business of providing long-term animal sheltering care to the citizens and their animals and the wildlife that we encounter. The other part of the thing in the presentation tonight that was an issue for me was the way that the Seattle Humane Society relationship was misrepresented. I think I mentioned to you last week, and this is going to wrap up, so I will address it in the email, but Seattle Humane Society very much would like to work with us. They don't have an issue with anything but the public disclosure, which I can address also in the email. I have some solutions I said briefly to Ms. Fontes. And I also want to talk about the bond, which I will email you about, which is a way to cut costs and deal with the grant situation that was also brought up with Seattle Humane Society not being an issue. I'm open to either of those two solutions, Seattle Humane Society or King County, but I understand that Seattle Humane is maybe a little more affordable and would preserve the jobs of our animal control officers. So thank you. I look forward to posting a letter and hearing back from you. I appreciate your time tonight, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hartman. Okay, next is Maggie Brown.
Hello and thank you. My name is Maggie Brown and I'm from Renton. I have a couple of issues, also reiterating what Christy just said. First of all, I believe that the Seattle Humane Society actually had a far greater role to play than what the proposal might have led you to believe. In fact, both of the organizations, Renton Animal Control and the SHS, still have on their voicemail messages that please send all your animals from Renton and Medina to Seattle Humane. So I do think we need to look at that relationship a little bit more. Also, the proposal only gives you a partial view of the total cost, like Christy mentioned, of what this will take. So what they showed you was pretty much what animal control services cost. For instance, Kent, he mentioned $215,000. According to that report that's also available on their website, the sheltering is $860-some thousand. So their total cost is $1.2 million for Kent to do the same thing that our animal control, our proposal is stating that they can do. What's missing from their proposal is the sheltering portion of it. What they're calling sheltering, if any of you really, you should go see, and I would like to give you, may I pass these out?
Please
These are
hand them to
photo-
the clerk and he can pass them out.
These are photographs recently taken of the current conditions of the kennels that are outdoors. Granted, they're going to be replaced, and I understand that there will be some type of indoor facility. However, the current conditions will last until mid-2017, until the new shelter gets built. They're filthy, they're disgusting, they're deplorable, dead birds sitting there, bones of a creature in a carrier, this dead bird upside down with the feet up, moldy, infested bedding, not in the kennels where the dogs were, but in the back. The cats will go into some type of dark shed with no contact with humans, maybe once or twice a day when the control officers are there, and there's no room for them, basically. And then a whole lot of chickens that are running around that was completely filthy. In my corporate days, we used to say that past performance would be indicative of future success. I really don't want that type of condition to be in our future kennels for our animals. I really think it's going to be a big disservice to the citizens of Renton and to our animals if we continue to go down the path of trying to provide sheltering for our lost animals. It's like going back to the 1960s to me, if we're just going to be getting more kennels, when there's other services that are available. So I would encourage the City Council to please look at other alternatives. We have the King County Shelter, RASC, where they have professionals, they have studied the procedures, they know the best way to adopt and take care of these animals and to find homes for them or whatever. We don't have that with Renton. We just have the animal control portion. They do a great job on their own, and I'm also glad to hear that the Chief of Police said that there will be a plan to adopt out or to find the owners of animals that are lost. I was told emphatically yesterday by Animal Control that they will not go on social media, they will not do emails, they will not post anything. What citizens need to do is what's on their website right now. All citizens are supposed to know this, but I really truly believe they don't. They just call Animal Control. They'll keep a paper list of animals they have been notified by, and that's all they're going to do. So I really would suggest that there is a type of, I'll go fast, that there is maybe a citizens advisory committee or a working board or others that could get involved, and also maybe a consultation from the regional animal services in King County, because they know what they're doing, and they've been doing it for a long time. So thank you very much.
Yeah, Ms. Brown, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, next is Michelle
Canzano, sir.
Canzano. Okay, thank you.
Thank you to honored members of the council allowing us to have an opportunity to talk about this. My name is Michelle Canzano. I do live in Kent, however, I work in Renton. I'm also a licensed veterinary technician, and I'm an active member in the animal rescue field. One of the things that we've talked about tonight is kenneling. We have not talked about sheltering and the care of the animals, and that is a great concern. It is a long process, and it is not a cheap one. You have to consider the cost of the facility. Yes, we have talked about replacing the facility. However, have we taken into account disease control? Are these animals that are going to come into their care going to come back out in the same condition? Are they going to be worse or better? Also, the software to keep track of the animals is another huge expense. Cost of staff and overhead. You can't ask our officers to manage both doing the day-to-day animal control that they are good at, as well as taking care of the animals that are at the kennel. And to ask a volunteer to be in charge of that is an incredible oversight. It takes a lot of hours to train effective volunteers and to have multiple volunteers. So you would need the staffing to be able to have those effective volunteers. Talk about the injured animals that might come in, animals that have special needs. They have a couple vets that they work with, but the costs vary between the vets. And not only that, they're not open 24/7. So what happens if you have an animal that comes in that's injured in the middle of the night when another vet isn't open? Are they going to take them to an emergency clinic and incur an even higher cost? So you have to look at having a relationship with a vet, a constant relationship with a vet, having an LVT on staff. Also, foster homes. Cats, you're going to have multitudes of cats, and they are not going to do well in a shelter or kennel opportunity. So I would really recommend, I think our officers do a great job. I've had the opportunity to work with them for the last 15 years, and I think very highly of them. But I don't think the care of the long-term care of the animals is what they're good at. And also talking about adoptions, you know, or having them go out to other rescues. Most of the rescues that they're probably going to work with are small. They do not have the overhead to take on the extra animals that might be coming in because they're not going to Seattle Humane. And so how can you ask the smaller rescues to take on that job? Are you going to be able to subsidize them to help them with that cost? Because that's going to be a huge burden. So I would like you to, I think our officers do a great job, but I don't think it's where we want to go long term to become a shelter. I do definitely think as far as the emergency management aspect, that's a great plan, and I think that's really something that we lack in our area. So I would definitely encourage keeping that as, you know, looking towards that for the future, but becoming part of an animal control, animal sheltering, you know, animal care is not where we want to go. We've had a lot of failures in the areas where where other cities have gone that way, and I really don't want to see our good name go down that road. So I would really, really ask that you look at other options, finding relationships with the larger shelters to be able to make this a smooth transition. I don't want our officers to lose their jobs because I do think they do a good job. Thank you.
Ms. Canzano, may I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
And I don't know if it's fair to ask you. I probably could have asked one of the earlier speakers. I'm still processing a lot of information that we just got the presentation to the council. Some of the things that you mentioned or that have been mentioned tonight, you know, I am confident that if we put our minds to it, we can create a nice facility. I know that we can do that within the city of Renton. I'm still trying to kind of get my head around. It makes a lot of sense to me for a found animal that the police pick up, for us to retain that for a period of time. It's easier for residents. If my dog gets out of the yard, it's easier for me to go find the dog. But I think what I don't know as much about is, you know, the stray cat or the stray dog, the feral cat, exactly what the process is, And, you know, I can see where we at the city of Renton could do the holding for the period of time, and then finally we decide, okay, this is not any individual's owned pet. That's where, in my mind, it's not quite clear to me what's going to happen. And before all this is said and done, I think the council will want to know exactly how that goes. But when I did, actually, after the committee of the whole meeting, I did go on the Seattle Humane website, and I saw that they specifically say in their mission that they are not associated with cities or counties, that they are a sort of a private standalone organization, and which is kind of, maybe that's why they didn't sign a contract with it. I don't know. It just said they're not associated with cities, even though City of Renton has been, you know, hiring them to do the impound. Maybe that's an awkwardness. I'm not sure, but it seemed to me, and you could maybe tell from my question during the council meeting or during the committee of the whole, that I thought, well, maybe after we've determined that an animal is not owned by a resident of Renton, that it could go to Seattle Humane, but I'm not sure that it could. I'm trying to get to the bottom of that. And
I would highly recommend you to explore that avenue. I do agree. I think holding the animals for that 72 hours here locally is an idea. I do encourage more use of social media for posting those pets. We have several Facebook pages for lost and found animals. I'm always referring people when we have them come in to make sure that they contact our animal control people so that they know. But that today is such an avenue for reuniting animals with their pets. But I think having a holding facility for that 72 hours is not necessarily a bad idea. It's beyond the 72 hours that is my greatest concern.
yeah, good. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome,
I
sir. Thank you.
appreciate your
Thank you
comments.
very much.
Okay, next up is Kathleen Powell.
Good evening. I have to say in my 60-some-odd years, this is the first time I've ever appeared before council. So I do have some passion about this issue. Good evening, council members and also attendees. My name is Kathleen Powell. I live in, can you hear me okay? I don't know,
Fine,
I don't know about the microphone thing. I've been a resident of Renton for about 12 years. I live in Renton Highlands. And I've known animal control officers, Tom and Dennis, for about 10 years. In fact, when I first got started in trap, neuter, and return of community cats that need to be spayed and neutered so they don't contribute to the overpopulation, the first thing I ever trapped was a raccoon. And so I called animal control and I said, help, it won't come out of my trap. What do I do? And so I got the lecture about not trapping wildlife. And then I also was given some tips as to how to get the thing that was hanging onto my trap for dear life. Over the years, I've volunteered for Meow in Kirkland as a foster mom. I've volunteered at Perfect Pals in their adoption room at the Landing. I volunteer for South County Cats and also RASC. My association with South County Cats has been the longest. It's been for 9 years. And I consider myself a cat advocate and not a crazy cat lady, because I look for solutions. I look for solutions. I'm somebody that you can talk to about that's in the trenches. The mission of South County Cats is saving lives through spay and neuter. We've been very successful in South King County in doing that because it impacts the number of unwanted kittens going to our shelters and costing the shelters money. When I go out to trap, I often encounter kitties that are lost or stray. And I used to have the resource of Seattle Humane Society where I could determine that the kitty didn't belong to anybody, it was tame, and so I could take it there. I don't have that safety net anymore. The kitties don't have that safety net anymore. Now, I heard two things today. I heard if a citizen turns in a pet, there is no charge from Renton. And then I've also heard that I cost Renton $200 or $300 when I take a cat there. So I'm not sure which is true, but I would like to follow up on that. I've read the proposal that RAC has, and as Michelle said, it seems like more of a program for kenneling dogs. I have to ask, as a cat volunteer, what happens to the kitties? Where will the lost, abandoned, and owner-surrender kitties fit into this plan? And I used a calculation. If previously Seattle Humane Society was charging over $100,000 per year for intakes from the city of Renton, if you divide that by 12 months, then that's roughly $8,300 per month. And I used the figure $200 per animal because that's what I had heard. So that is 41 animals a month that RAC was turning in to Seattle Humane Society. I have to ask, in the last 2 months, when they haven't been using the Humane Society, where have those animals been going? I've seen 2 lost dogs posted on the Renton Police Department page, but I haven't seen any other information about where those animals are, and this concerns me. You know, I don't want to use the word, a lot of times, you know, shelters kill for space. Are we killing because we don't have space? I have to ask that hard question.
Yeah. I can probably ask, I can ask maybe if our police can answer that. I don't know if that's a question that I can ask you now, or if you need to prepare an answer.
Particular question.
I think it's, if I understand right, I'll just paraphrase. It's that it sounds like maybe the Seattle Humane Society's already stopped accepting the animals.
I
and
believe as of August 1st.
Okay, and I think the question is, well, what have we done in the last week and a half or whatever since August 1st?
And I've heard it was longer because I was told several weeks ago that if I wanted to take a cat to the Humane Society, I would have to get approval of written animal control, and they're not giving approval. So as far as I know, we have not had any or many cats go, or dogs, go to the Humane Society in Bellevue. So my question is just, you know, where are they going? What's going to happen in the interim while this kennel is being built?
Yeah, my understanding that they stopped as of August 1st, but I could find out. That was my understanding with the contract. Right now, we are either holding the animals or we find a temporary home for the animals. And your issue regarding the health, if there's an issue with the health, we'll get them run by a vet first before we kennel them.
Okay. Now, I did call Tom and I offered my home as a holding facility for cats, and I never heard back.
Okay.
And so I don't know how proactive they're being, and I'm concerned about what is happening with our strays.
So my thought is you're asking a lot of very fine questions, and I actually also taking note of the fact you're offering to volunteer maybe as a foster home. So if we end up going forward with having a facility at the city of Renton that's holding animals, I think I understood the chief's presentation that we would be seeking armies of volunteers to help us with that.
And I understand that, but I have to say, I made a trip also to the kennels the other day. And I'm very disturbed by what I saw, and I wouldn't be able to volunteer for that level of service.
I understand.
Okay.
I think what's there now is a decades-old facility to hold like dangerous dogs temporarily while the police figure out what to do with them. It's not what they're envisioning, but I accept that.
All righty, thank you for your time.
Great comments. Thank you very much. Okay, the next is, I think we have one more on animal control. Sally Halila?
Good evening. My name is Sally Halila, and I live in Renton. I'm the director of South County Cats. Kathleen did a wonderful job of describing what South County Cats does. We were listed as a partner on the presentation that was given to the Committee of a Whole earlier this evening, and I want to clarify what our position is as a partner. We're not a shelter. We are not trying to be a shelter, and we don't want to be a shelter. That's not a job that we want to have. We are a spay-neuter assistance organization, and over 10 years, we've facilitated 10,000 spays and neuters. And that's how our local shelters are achieving 90% live release rates, which is what our goal is for all of our shelters, is to get the animals out alive. I have many concerns about the consideration of the city building a kennel. Again, there's differences between what is a kennel and what is providing animal care services. And in the presentation that I heard earlier this evening, I did not hear mention even one time of animal care or animal services. All I heard was kennel, building a facility, and you can't do that without having a plan for animal care and animal services. I don't think that the city should get into the business of housing animals when there are successful programs in 2 adjacent cities, with RASC in Kent and Seattle Humane in Factoria Bellevue area. Let's see. We have heard that a private citizen has been appointed to do cat care for the city of Renton. That's a huge concern for us because is that citizen licensed to have a kennel facility in her home? Has that facility been inspected? What happens if that individual gets a cat bite and goes to the ER? Is the city going to pay for her medical bills if she gets bit? So that's been advertised, I guess, on Facebook, that one individual has been appointed to do cat care for the city. That's a big concern. RASC has a comprehensive animal service program that they offer. Again, it's not just kenneling and housing animals. They have 2 vets on staff, 3 LVTs, vet assistants, and as I heard mentioned earlier, an army of volunteers. That army is already in place. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel when those programs are already in place. They're also an open admission shelter. They don't say no to any animal that's in their jurisdiction. Part of the reason they're able to do that is because they have the space. They have the space to accommodate the animals. They're not killing for space anymore. And they have the space to accommodate animals coming from the city of Renton, I believe, as well. They have a barn cat program for unadoptable cats. So rather than destroying those animals, they're spayed or neutered and adopted out at no charge, given rabies, distemper vaccines, microchipped, to the public to provide free rodent control without poisons and chemicals getting into our lakes and streams. And there's no adoption fee for those cats, so they don't recover those costs from those cats at all. They also have a hospice program for the old and infirm cats and dogs that nobody wants anymore. They'll go into a foster home to be able to live out their lives. So one piece that I've seen that appears to be missing again from this kenneling program that doesn't include animal care is the citizens of Renton that can't take care of their animals anymore, whether they've lost their home, they can't afford it, their kid is allergic, or what are they going to do with that animal? Are they going to be able to surrender it to the city? So I feel like the police department is offering a proposal with tunnel vision that is not seeing the big picture of what's involved in animal care and control services. Finally, I would like to ask, as a matter of public disclosure, what are the numbers of intakes that the city had in 2015, and what is the live release rate for 2015 and to date in 2016? So how many animals are being taken in, and what is the number that are getting out alive? Because those live release rates should be 90%, not the opposite, where those animals are 90% are being destroyed. So I thank you very much for your time this evening. South County Cats would like to offer a partnership with the city of Renton to increase spay and neuter for the cats in the community, which will result in reduced intake rates in any shelter that you partner with. and also a microchipping program, because microchips are the cat's or the dog's ticket home. So we look forward to talking to somebody at the city to be able to increase those services at our expense. We're a nonprofit organization. We have funding to be able to do that.
Ms. Halila, thank you very much. I saw Jay Covington taking notes at your question, and the clerk as well. You had a good two-part question, and let's try and get an answer to her for that. And I want to say thank you to you and everybody that's spoken tonight that volunteers with animals. I can tell there's a great deal of compassion for these animals. I'm definitely an animal owner. I think many on the council are, and we appreciate how much you care, how much you do. Good question. So,
Thank you for your time.
thank you. Thanks for your comment. Okay, so I don't believe we've got any more signed up on the animal control issue, but let's go to David Dixon. I can't quite tell the topic. Oh, it is maybe related.
I'm David Dixon. I'm not a resident here. I'm working here. Just a follow-up on our little boy and the fact that I've talked to you last week and was just curious. I never got a follow-up phone call. Didn't know what was going on. I got a call for an officer that he'd been rehomed, and I'm just curious why I was given that the city would follow up, or that you would follow up, and I never got a phone call back. I'd called several times, left messages. Nobody got back with me, like they were going to sweep me under the rug, like this issue was going to go away. And I'm in the process of trying to come up with the money, if I got a crowdsource, to get an attorney on this, and I have several of them that are interested. I didn't want to go that far, but it's something that shouldn't have happened in the first place, because we're the owners and we're found, and again, put on Facebook by Animal Control that we found the owners, and because of public disclosure, the shelter couldn't be given to us. I mean, we weren't given no due process, anything to say that we were unfit or that we shouldn't have our beloved boy back, and our lives have been turned upside down over this, and it's not gonna rest, and I don't want to have to retain an attorney to get my son back, our boy, but it seems like that's what it's gonna have to, because I don't understand why a perfectly fit citizen should have their animal taken from them without due process, to come and see the conditions, talk to people, to have a shelter. It's okay. He was, again, you heard this, he was chipped and neutered, which is a good thing. But to have a shelter that could hide behind their opinion of what was wrong and not truly come and have a meeting. Can we have a meeting with their concerns and cares and concerns? I mean, you go to court to be able to voice your opinion and to have them cross-examine you and to have them prove that you're unfit to be an animal owner when they've taken our kid from us. And it's wrong in so many aspects. And I know that, again, Animal Control is doing what they have, and they're following, but from the day that they posted on Facebook, we found the owners. At that point, we should have been at least given the opportunity to communicate with whoever it was, the concerns of, if they had concerns. These shelters and rescues have way too much power to decide the fate of my animal. And I don't know what process to follow other than to get, I'm probably going to go to the newspaper and have them run a story on our story. And if it gets out, there's a lot of people, and I'm sure you've heard it on Facebook and stuff, it's blown up. There's a lot of people pretty upset about the situation with this little dog here. And every day that goes by, he's missing us, and I'm missing him, and it's wrong from the top to the bottom, and somebody dropped the ball somewhere, and we're paying the price on it, and all we want him is back, okay? All we want is for him to be back with us. I mean, he's our kid. He was our unofficial service dog to my fiance, and that it's nothing is hogwash. It's something very much, and I'm going to go as far as it takes to get our son back, not because I want it for money or anything, but I want him back because he's means everything to us, And if it was your child, you would go to any lengths to get him back. Because I was wronged. If I was unfit and was abusing him, that would be one thing. Take him from me. I don't deserve him, but we've done nothing wrong other than we fell through the cracks and there were some policies or something that are wrong. Not blaming, not pointing no fingers, that are wrong, that need to be changed, because I'm sure I'm not the only person that's had this happen. I'm the one person that's not going to let it stand, because I want our kid back. And you guys, I mean, I'm just voicing myself. I'm not saying anybody here is at fault. Somebody's at fault for letting this happen. And I'm going to get him back. And if it takes money to get him back, I would spend everything I had and give up everything I had to get him back. So I just was curious why the city had not gotten back to me. That I'm not going to say that I'm nobody. I am somebody. I'm a resident of the United States of America that has some rights, and he's property, but he has rights.
Mr. Mayor? Will you allow Mr. Covington to respond?
Yeah, I will say, Mr. Dixon, I did try to call you back. Every time I tried, your line was busy, so I had a member of the police department keep trying, and they did ultimately get a hold of you, as you said.
How can a cell phone be busy?
I called a number that you called me on, and every time I called, the line was busy, and there was no ability for me to leave a message. So I had an officer continue to try until he got a hold of you. In that, what we determined, and we did attempt to try to get a hold of the shelter agency and explain the situation to them and see if they would return the dog to the Dixons. And as Mr. Dixon was told, the animal sheltering agency determined that the dog was in a condition when they found it that they felt like their determination was that they shouldn't return the dog to the Dixons. As we've talked, when we turn the animals over to a shelter, we relinquish any control or ownership or rights to that dog. They go to the shelter, which is one of the reasons why we're considering a different shelter arrangement for ourselves to give us more flexibility. In any case, it's now between Mr. Dixon and the shelter. Unfortunately, we did try to get the dog back to the Dixons, and we're told by the shelter that they wouldn't relinquish the dog.
And
Mr. Dixon was told that.
And Mr. Covington, was this after the 72 hours? Is that what happened here?
I can have the police department come with more chronology, but my understanding was, yes, we held the animal. The animal was not, we weren't aware of the ownership link until after the 3 days, and we turned the animal over to the shelter.
3.5 days.
Right.
I can see that they're trying to pass the buck. That this shelter has, now it's their fault. Now it's up to them.
I don't know.
And I'm going to look at my call log.
Yeah.
All I got was a
There
call
was no
from
identifying information on the dog. We had no chip, no collar, no ownership, nothing to tell us that the animal belonged to the
Except
Dixons.
after the 3.5 days, I called and they posted on Facebook. It should have been stopped at that point. Even the city should have had the power, not the shelter, to get my dog back, because they said I identified it as my dog.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, but it's not going to rest. Not going to rest.
Okay, next up is Karen Wimberly.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the council tonight. My name is Karen Wimberly. I live here in Renton. I've been a resident for over 35 years. I've retired from the Boeing Company, and I currently am active in several volunteer activities. My husband and I are the 11th District Coordinators for the Faith Action Network, and part of our responsibilities related to that involve us going down to Olympia and advocating for affordable housing and the Housing Trust Fund, those sorts of issues in our community. I'm also a volunteer for REACH, and I'm on the REACH board. I'm honored to have been recognized about 6 weeks ago as the Boeing Employee Credit Union Volunteer of the Year, which netted the REACH organization $30,000 for us to continue our meal program. So I'm here today as an advocate and a neighbor for those who are in need of affordable housing in our community. About 2 months ago, I attended a community meeting sponsored by the Low Income Housing Institute to share what was happening concerning a project called the Renton Commons. And to me, it looks like a wonderful asset to our community. I believe there's already been a partnership between the City of Renton and Lehigh, Low Income Housing Institute, to make sure that this project meets with guidelines in the city and the development of downtown and that sort of thing. So I'm here to say wonderful things about Lehigh and ask you to do what you can to make sure that this building takes place in our community, Renton Commons. I know firsthand through REACH what a difference getting housing can make in a person's life. A person that I'll call Jim, I met through the REACH warm-up breakfast program. And Jim came every morning to make coffee. That was his pride and joy, of serving coffee for his fellow homeless or poor friends. He was living in the Arise men's shelter, waiting for housing. And he was following all the rules, making sure that he, met whatever milestones he needed to so that he qualified for housing. And then came that day when he told us he had a meeting to go to find out about his housing. He was going to get an apartment. And he was so excited. He made his coffee, but he couldn't eat the breakfast that Howard McCormer, who is quite often in these meetings as well, him and his crew had made a wonderful pancake breakfast, but Jim couldn't eat. He was too excited. So he went to his meeting, found out about getting into an apartment, and it took another couple weeks, but eventually he got that apartment. And as he was talking about that, actually Christmas came and went. And many of his homeless friends were getting haircuts and shaves in honor of the holidays. Somebody came in and made that offer to the homeless folks. And he said, I'm not gonna get a haircut and a shave until I have a sink and a mirror of my own so that I can shave every single day. So he got that apartment, and we didn't see him very much because he had to take 2 buses. Unfortunately, there was not housing in Renton for him. He had to be housed outside of our community. It took 2 buses for him to get to the warm-up breakfast so he could make coffee for us. But the next time I saw him, he was clean shaven, nice haircut, and smiling from ear to ear. Getting housing made such an impact on that man's life. And to have another opportunity for 48 units to be built in our community, I just ask you to do whatever you can as city council members to help make that project take place.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, lastly is Lee Wimberly.
My name is Lee Wimberly, and I live with Karen. After 41 years living with Karen, I really ought to know that coming after her puts me in bad light. I am also here to speak in favor of the Lehigh project. And I say that up front because should you fall asleep because of my following conversations, you'll know why I'm here. I've been a resident. We bought our first house in Renton in 1977. And for the next 37 some odd years, I realized that I had driven out of Renton to live into my values. So during that time, I learned some things about housing and homelessness. I was on a church council in Des Moines in which we considered using a piece of the property for affordable housing, and I saw what the reaction was both within the church and the neighborhood. In Bellevue, I participated in the faith community, which served dinners at Tent City 4 about once a quarter. During that time, we rather wrangled the Bellevue City Council because we proposed putting inviting Tent City 4 onto our property in Factoria. We further upset them by making a proposal of developing affordable housing on our property in Factoria. And then I also participated in the groundbreaking and the opening house of the Veterans Center on 2nd Avenue in Renton. So about 2 years ago, Karen and I decided to stop driving out of Renton and start dedicating our moral values to the city of Renton. And as Karen mentioned, we became involved with the Renton Ecumenical Association of Churches. So as a man and wife, we've been attending the warm-up breakfasts in which we help the homeless conduct a cold weather clothing drive. And in that 2 years, one thing I've come to really appreciate, having spent time in other communities, is that I really appreciate this church, this council here, and especially appreciate Dennis Law with the Center of Hope. And so it is with great pride that I stand before you and advocate for affordable housing. Like Karen, I have a personal story to share. One thing I have to say that I find much more rewarding than standing before the Bellevue Planning Council and trying to convince them to make changes to allow us to build houses. I find it much more rewarding in sitting across from somebody and having a cup of coffee and getting to know them, finding out what their life situation is and why they're where they're at, and maybe tell them a bad joke and get them to laugh. About a year and a half ago, or a year ago, a family of 3 came into the warm-up breakfast, and they were working to get into affordable housing. Through some money that we had gathered through an organization, homeless organization called the Saner, we helped them clear up some of their debts so that they could apply for affordable housing. And I am now still on Facebook with them, and I'm tracking the progress of their son through preschool and kindergarten, and I find that extremely rewarding. So I go back to my original ask. When the planning staff brings forth the project for the Renton Commons, I ask that the council be in supportive of it and listen to their proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wimberly. Okay, well, that concludes the audience comment. I think with that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I guess I'm supposed to ask, does anybody want anything removed? Any of the 2 items removed from the consent agenda?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Pavoni?
I move that the council approve the consent agenda.
second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Okay, the ayes have it. The consent agenda is approved. Okay, next up is unfinished business. Starting with the Mr. Prince.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Council Plan Development Committee has a committee report.
Okay, Planning and Development Committee report, the Benson Hill Community Plan Advisory Board appointments. The Planning and Development Committee recommends concurrence to Mayor Law's appointments to the Benson Hill Community Plan Advisory Board. Alexis Madison Birmingham, term expiring August 1st, 2017, and Pamela Nugent with a term expiring August 1st, 2017. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Prince?
I move that the council concur with the committee report of the Planning and Development Committee.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Prince, seconded by Mr. McGurven, that council approve the report of the Planning and Development Committee. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it.
That is all, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, next, Ms. Witchy.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Community Services has 2 committee reports.
Okay, Community Services Committee report. Appointments to the Airport Advisory Committee, Marie Campbell and Mandy Pedersen. The Community Services Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to confirm Mayor Law's appointment of Ms. Marie Campbell, Airport at Large alternate position, to the Airport Advisory Committee for a term expiring May 7, 2019, and Ms. Mandy Feddersen, the Boeing Company representative, to the Airport Advisory Committee for a term expiring May 7, 2017. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ms. Witchy?
I move that the council concur with the recommendation of the Community Services Committee.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Witchy, seconded by Mr. Prince, that the council concur in the Community Services report. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report is approved.
Okay, the final Community Services Committee report. Another appointment to the Airport Advisory Committee, Ms. Wendy Weicker. The Community Services Committee recommends concurrence in the staff recommendation to confirm Mayor Law's appointment of Ms. Wendy Weicker to the Mercer Island position to the Airport Advisory Committee for a term expiring May 7, 2019. This is signed by the committee chair and members.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ms. Witchy?
I move that the council concur with the recommendation of the Community Services Committee.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Witchy, seconded by Mr. McGurven, that the council concur in the recommendation of the Community Services Committee. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The Community Services report is approved.
That is all.
Okay, Mr. McGurven.
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Mr. Pavoni?
No unfinished business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, okay, then with that, we'll move on to legislation, although I don't believe there's any legislation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so next up is new business. Mr. Prince.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The Planning and Development Committee, that will be scheduled on Thursday, August 25th, is canceled. However, on Thursday, September 8th, at 3 p.m. in the council conference room, we have a Planning and Development Committee meeting. We have 5 items on the agenda: marijuana rules, low-impact development, unit lot subdivisions, docket 12 briefing, and emerging issues. And that is all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Prince. Ms. Witchy, new business?
Yes, on Thursday, August 25th, the Community Services Committee that was scheduled has been canceled. We are also canceling the Community Services Committee meeting scheduled for Thursday, September 8th. However, on Monday, September 12th at 3 p.m. in the council conference room, the Transportation Committee will be meeting. We have 2 topics. The first one is the 2017 to 2022 6-year Transportation Improvement Program, and the second item is emerging issues in transportation. And that is all.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Witchy. Okay, next, Mr. McGurven.
No new business, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pavoni.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I've got a book to read here.
Speaking.
So first Monday, August 22nd, will be a council holiday. We will not have a council meeting that day.
Well, we leave you in charge and you just start
I
to
know.
cancel everything.
Cancel.
I'm just getting started. Monday, August 29th will be the 5th Monday. We will have no council meeting. And Monday, September 5th is Labor Day, and it's a council holiday. Let's see, Monday, September 12th at 4 p.m., the Finance Committee will meet, and that will be in the council conference room. We have 2 issues, vouchers and emerging issues. Also on Monday, September 12th, the Public Safety Committee will meet at 5 p.m. in the council conference room. We have 1 issue, emerging issues. And last but not least, Monday, September 12th at 5:30, the Committee of the Whole will meet in the council chambers. We have 2 issues, update on inclusion and human services funding recommendations.
All right.
That is all, Mr. President.
Very well done, Mr. Pavoni. So, council, you can help me make sure. I think we've got everything, right?
Yes.
The clerk's saying yes. Okay, well, I think with that, there's only one more.
Move we adjourn.
Okay, it's
Second,
been
third.
moved by Mr. Pavoni, seconded by Mr. Prince, that we adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you.